Hello, everyone. My name's Hank Settle,
And I'm Brian Daniel Edward.
I am
and our
Yahaba
special guest.
Aquarium.
Perfect. And we're here with another episode of Midnight Meanderings. Welcome to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again. I know you can't see because we are in the middle of the stream here, but I wanted to show you our background picture because we just had a lunar eclipse. I know we could see it from where I live in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm not sure if you could see it from Hawaii, but this is just a cool little. The ones on the right hand side kind of show you what the lunar eclipse looks like when the Earth's shadow is kind of passing over the moon. So since we just had that event on Friday, I thought I would just kind of share what that kind of looks like. How is everyone tonight?
And
Really wonderful.
yes, I mean,
Just got to go
wonderful.
for a swim before coming here for the broadcast. So always love the ocean.
Awesome. And last time, if you it didn't catch the episode, we had a whole thing on the planets and what was going on and how it's impacting the Earth, and did a few little spot astrology readings and had all kinds of fun. So we'll see what kind of shenanigans we get into today. Was there
Uh,
anything in particular on your guys' mind that you wanted to start off with today?
well, we'll let our guest go forth. Did you want to talk about any of your spiritual background? It's very interesting, and I'd love to hear more about it.
That's a really good idea because last time
That
we
is a
jumped
good
right into
idea.
astrology and we didn't hear anything about your background. So we need to learn all about you.
Okay, wow, my favorite talk. I was born in Morocco in 1943. I was born under a very lucky star. Thank you, angels. Um, I was always been told that my parents were Jewish, and beside being Jewish, they were also like very conservative religious Jew. Especially my grandpa. He was a famous shamash, we call that. So he was the caretaker of the most beautiful Jewish temple in Casablanca. And so I was kind of raised very much in that temple. Being a kid, my mom would drop me there and I would just go and climb the stairs and look at the beautiful biblical scenery that was all over the temple. And for me, it was heaven. I would fall asleep there for hours. And actually, they called everybody just to find
Oh,
me.
losing you a little bit.
They called everybody just to find me. And finally, they gave up. And then my grandma just goes up the temple and she finds me sleeping there. So I've always loved to be around whatever it is, religious, spiritual, any kind of religion was okay with me. And now that's my Jewish side. Now I do have an Arab side that I also love so much. Is that my house was only two small streets from the Muslim temple. So every day at 3 a.m., the muezzin, which is the chanter, would start going with Allah, and it would go on for so long. And I'm a kid, and I'm like, I'm listening to this, and I will never forget how much I love that. So that's me being very young, and those moments are very precious in my life because I haven't changed much. I might move to Christianity, Buddhism, um, Indianism and many, many other. I studied many religions, but uh, for me, they're all just like the way it was when I grew up. It was just, they're all so magnificent that I just pretty much, my whole life has been around that. So at the age of 5, I went to a Jewish school, Hebrew school. So I learned Hebrew from 7 to 12, and from uh, 1 around 1 to 4, I studied French. It was a school where you do half a day French, half a day Hebrew. So I grew up finishing my studies in Hebrew as well as in French. And of course, a little bit of English, a little bit of Arabic. And so that was me. And studying, I was a famous student. I had my picture, my name in the front page of the newspaper. I was introduced to the Queen of Morocco. I was the best student of Morocco. I kind of like that.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't understand it, even though I was. I much rather play with the boys and run with my bike. I was such a gymnastic girl, such an athlete. So when I got introduced to the Queen, I didn't realize that I was, because uh, why? You mean not everybody is the best student? It's like, to me, I never could uh, think that the other students are not like me. I always thought that we were the same. But eventually, later on, when I grew up, I realized that it was a beautiful feat. And then the same until I was 13. Then when I was about 13, I lost all my powers. I had big time powers, by the way, but I lost them all because I had like a face paralysis. What do you call that? I forgot how you call it.
Bell palsy.
And then, pardon?
Bell
Yes,
palsy. Yeah.
yes. And then I was transformed. I couldn't go to school, stopped right there. And so a new life started for me. And then something else happened, which I'm writing those stories, so I'm happy to publish them. Something else drastic happened, and I shifted. I went the other way somehow because of something that happened with my mom. So I shifted and I went the way of the flesh, the way of the girl, the way, and then when I was 17, we moved to Israel, and there it was very hard for the family, and I was by then about 17. So I had to work anything that I could work, and thank God I spoke Hebrew before I even got to Israel. So I took care of my family for a while because nobody could work. We had to run away from Morocco pretty much, because when the Jew in 58, they won, the Israelite won Gaza, so all the Arabs were pretty much raping all the Jewish girls and burning all the houses and etc. So we ran away with one suitcase. So when we got to Israel, there was a couple million people like us. So they just gave us like one of those mobile homes without toilets, and we received one basket of food a week. So it was really hard. So at 17, I had to leave my family and go to town and find a job. And not knowing what I was doing, I ended working in a bar. So I worked in a bar for a few years, but all the money I made, I just send it to my family so they can eat. And I was living with my brother, so it was good. And Israel was very powerful for me because I was supposed to go to the army, but because I was a religious girl, I didn't go to the army. Lucky me, I didn't want to go to the army. Thank God, thank God, thank God I didn't go. I'm not into that. And then after I met my husband in Israel, and he was my neighbor in Morocco, but I met him in Israel, and we left Israel. We came back to United States together, and we smoked pot and we had some LSD.
Oh, now we're getting into the good stuff right now.
And we drank, and I was working in the club and he was working in the club, so we had a nightlife, and that was not very healthy. After 6 years it broke us apart, and it was a very bad time in my life because I loved him, but somehow God took me. I didn't leave him. God took me. There's a way about me where nothing works. God sends somebody and they take me out of there. And that's how it's been every single time in my life. So I ended up in LA, and the morning that after I wake up, I walk down Sunset and I go have breakfast at this place called The Source. So that's the morning after I arrive in LA. Woohoo! So the Source was the most spiritual place to be in all of Los Angeles beside Yogananda. So those were the two strongest places in Los Angeles. And of course I joined. It took some magic. I I went to India. This woman took me to India, and I met the prophets of India. I met the prophet Jesus in India, and then I came back to the source. And somehow the way God made it happen, the magic, where at 4 a.m. I'm driving this my girlfriend Jaguar because she's asleep, and I ended up at the source because they were having meditation at 4 a.m. outside in the parking lot. And I'm born Jewish, so I'm born with the name Yahweh. I was raised with that. And these people in a parking lot, 100 people all in white looking like angels at 4:30. It was around 4:30 a.m. And I hear the name of God chanted by this group of people, and I think I'm hearing angels. And I stopped right in front of the source, stopped my car right there in the freeway. And I'm like, in another word, I'm transported. And I look and I go, my God, there's angels over there. And I don't know what to do. I'm just listening to them until somebody comes in an Italian, knocks on my window. Hey, you stop me in the traffic, in Italian. And then I woke up and whoa, I did. There was about 5, 6 cars behind me. So anyway, I go to the source, and these two giants come and say, oh, you can't go in. Why? They're angels. They are in a trance. You have to wait until you're gone. It's okay. You just got to wait. So I waited until they were done. And then I met the father. And then through magic again, I got in. And my life changed. And I became Yahava the Aquarian. My name was different. My name then was Lillian. So it changed names. And since then, I just followed that path, which is up at 2 a.m. and just follow the path of the spirit wherever. I'm kind of like a spiritual nun, and what I call myself an Aquarian nun. I'm just into the spirit of the eternal now. So that's kind of my life.
Great.
Up and even though our father passed away, I I stayed connected with the family. There's about 15 to 20 members here in Big Island. We're spread up throughout the island, and we meet once every other year, all as a group. And we have a movie, as I told you before, called The Source.
I'm sorry, I missed that. At least I think you froze. I'm not thinking I froze. What was the name of the movie again?
It did black out.
Yeah, your internet might be a little spotty, but that's all
The
right. The
Source
Source.
family. Yes, the
Okay.
Source family with Father Yod and the Source family.
Seeing if I can find. Is that on any of the streaming platforms like Netflix or where? Oh, the Source Family documentary mystery. Is that it?
Voila. Yes.
It's on
Yeah.
YouTube. Well, the trailer's on YouTube.
It's
Okay. Wow.
on Amazon, Netflix.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. So that's kind of course, the people who did it, they wanted to hit Hollywood. So they did it in a way that it can sell in Hollywood versus the spiritual and religious part that the training really was. And but it's okay because now we have many people that connect with us and we teach them what we learned, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you for asking.
I just posted the picture of I posted not a picture. I posted a link for the YouTube trailer for anybody interested. You can see the YouTube trailer there, and if you're watching and you can't see comments, I'm just putting it up on the screen. You can go back and pause it here. This is the YouTube URL if you want to go just watch the trailer and check that out. So cool. Now, my question for you is that I think all of us, Brian, myself, and from your story, we've all had these moments in our lives where we kind of have this go path through the darkness where we're not necessarily at our best, but we end up emerging from that and then following what I would call the impulse of the soul. You had your own terminology for it, and everybody has the ability to tap into that. Uh, my question to you is, what would you recommend? Like, I don't believe that people have to go through all that darkness in order to emerge awakened. People can choose to be awakened at any point in time. And my question is, would you have any advice or feedback for people that are looking to awaken to that impulse of the soul and follow it without them having to go through like the trauma and the drama that we chose initially?
What a beautiful question. And I have a little story for it, but before to answer that is there is nothing more beautiful than the trauma sometimes to help us see how powerful we are if we look at the trauma as an unconditional energy source and nothing else. And we don't compare that energy source to suffering people. We just see it. Wow, what a power. And don't go back to the subconscious and say, I can't do this, I can't make it, or start thinking about anything that can defeat you. It's a energy. And to deal with energy, you start with A, B, C, D. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways. You got to follow the plan for that energy. The sun does not stand at the midday spot at 6 a.m. No, it grows in its powerful magnificence slowly but readily. Now, the story that I have is so beautiful. I was teaching at the Unity Church in Santa Cruz, and I have my Unity credentials. And then I was teaching this class, and it was the same question. There was the group, and every person in the group was sharing, oh, I met this angel and I was lost. And like an angel came and I woke up. And then another story, another woman says, my mom died and she came like a ghost. And then I woke up. And there was like about 6 or 7 stories of these people that their life was so dramatic that either their father died, or the ghost came in and an angel knocked at their door, or a book fell on their head. And so I was asking every person, and then they shared their story. Then I came to this Indian woman in the circle and I said, "What was your story?" She said, "Oh, I don't have angel stories. I just woke up this morning and I looked at myself in the mirror and I looked so bad. I said, enough. I don't want to look like this anymore. Is there anything else?" That was her story. And I'll never forget it. She just saw that it was time to move on. She saw that simple, very simple. And I'll never forget that story.
No, I
That
love that you say that. A little bit earlier today, if people want to go back and watch it, we had a book discussion on Neil Donald Walsh's works, Conversations with God. And in his text, he was basically saying that at any point in time, you can start to choose to be the greatest version of the grandest you that you've ever imagined. And all you have to do is start to choose what you're going to become. And then with every choice and every day, align all your actions, align all your thoughts, align all your deeds to, will this take me closer to expressing that beingness that I'm choosing to be in the world? And it all comes down to that choice and just starting to choose different, like your friend. I don't want to be that anymore. I'm going to choose different. It's that, that's what I was going for. Like, it can be that simple without the trauma and the drama. But if you do go through the trauma, don't don't make it a wrongness, like you were saying, that is like fertilizer. There's an acronym. Sometimes we have to go through shit, spiritual, human, in transition, in order to grow and blossom.
Well, this is like the story of humans, where they feel that they have to carry the Jesus pain before they can achieve. And no, God had man because he had pleasure on earth. It is the most pleasurable planet to be, and I said that before. And we have to choose to live in that pleasure, in that joy. Of course, if you walk right now where I'm standing with you guys, you could fall and hurt yourself really bad. There's so many rocks. My it's a new land I just got, and it's frightening to walk here. But I choose to look at the beauty that's in front of me and I want to reach that beauty. I walk softly on the rocks. I respect every walk I walk on, and I get to where I want to be. Without, I don't create subconscious drama before and after. I just be here now, conscious, awake. It's important.
And Brian, I'm sure you have a lot to contribute here because I've known you for quite some time. And when I first met you, there was a tendency to kind of get caught up in the trauma and drama and things of that nature. And I know that through your thing in Mexico and all the other places, you had that shift to realizing too that this is just, it's just choice and let's choose something different. Do you have anything to kind of add from your experience to what we're talking about?
You've really helped me with that, through our conversations, through everything collapsing and those near-death phone calls to you. um,
Um, there's that
some
phone
crazy
call.
times. But
The
one
most notable one, Brian texts me, I think I did something stupid. And that's why that was your initial text. And I'm like,
which
and I
time
tuned
was
in.
that?
This was the cherry pit incident.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you messaged me, I think I did something stupid. And I kind of tuned in and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but you should go to a hospital. And then,
You
uh,
said that right away.
You should go in.
go
Oh,
ahead.
so what happened? I was in Mexico. I cooked dinner for a Mexican family, and the one brother who turned out to be demon possessed, actually, he actually actively worshipped um, demons. And he was so unhealthy. I should have spotted him like from a mile away. He was just sitting there sweating bullets. But so I cooked, and my cooking is abuelita approved. little Mexican granny just absolutely loved my vegan Mexican cooking, and loved that I could cook, and loved that I was into the spiritual healing and everything. Um, so she found me just fascinating. But the brother, uh, we finished dinner and we're having some dessert for dinner, and the brother goes, "Oh, you can eat those cherry pits." I look at my friend and go, "De veras?" Or like, really? And she goes, "See." So he ate them every once in a while. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, I cracked it open. It had like a macadamia nut texture. I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And it smelled like cherries or almonds or cyanide. And then, I start eating them, and I'm like, "Oh, it's got a warming effect on my tongue." And then I started going into this different headspace. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you could use these as a journey plant." Yep, one-way ticket. Um, so the next morning, I just passed out that night, had this black sleep. I woke up and I had no idea where I was, who I was. My body didn't fit correctly, or it didn't feel like mine to start off with. And I'm just like, what on earth happened? Uh,
And just to connect the dots for everyone, cherry pits, if you were to swallow them whole, they just pass through the system. But this guy was like cracking them open, and
yeah,
the
like,
inside of a cherry pit, it basically is cyanide. It stops your body's ability to process oxygen, and you basically suffocate. And so that's what was happening to Brian. He was having oxygen deprivation, and who knows what else cyanide does. But just to
yeah.
make sure people are on the same page, go ahead with the rest.
So eventually, I went to a local quack, and he gave me antibiotics, Cipro, um, Synthroid, a thyroid medication, and scopolamine, a mind control drug. If I had taken those, especially the scopolamine, I would have gone deeper into journey space and I would have died. Luckily, I kept my wits about me and insisted I go to the hospital. But instead of taking me to the main hospital, she took me to a local hospital. And that was like a hospital from the 70s that had never been renovated, never been upgraded.
In
The
fact, if I
amount.
remember right, when you got there, the person that was admitting people was on siesta or something. Like you just had to
Oh,
wait.
yeah.
There's no one even to check you in.
By that point in time, I barely could stand up. I was so tired. My thinking was going. This was not a full day later, but it was
Yeah,
real regular.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, she's
yeah.
asking. Yeah, just any cherries, like the cherry pits, you don't want
The
to eat them,
cherry pits,
especially if it's
uh,
broken.
apricot pits, peach pits. The inside of those pits contain a cyanic compound. Some people say it's Laetrile or B17, and it will cure cancer. Well, I'll tell you, if you take enough of it'll cure cancer. You
Right.
won't have to worry about the cancer. You'll just
Well,
be dead.
I think
Uh,
the avocado pit, not avocado pits, the apricot pits. That's one of the things where they
Famous.
create like chemotherapy stuff from is like
Yeah.
doing
yeah,
something with those. Yeah,
yeah,
which is a
Wow.
poison. Incidentally, like it might be a therapy for cancer, or whatever, but it's a poison. It kills everything. That's it's not. Anyway, there might be other ways you could go about it, but we
Wow.
digress. Back to the story at hand of
so
the cyanide
the
poison.
amount of human suffering was unimaginable.
Oh my
People
goodness.
screaming all night long. Uh, Most patients didn't have a bed. I was lucky enough to have a bed because I could barely stand. So most people just had an IV bag and were sitting in the chairs. This hospital did not have toilet paper. It did not have soap, nor did it have hand sanitizer.
Wow.
Uh, at a hospital, can you imagine? No soap, no hand sanitizer at a hospital. The screams were just haunting all night long. So it was a really
Wow.
great experience to see what the rest of the world has to go through.
Yeah.
Um,
And
we're
now, from my perspective, you messaged me, and I was having an event that day, and I don't even know if I told you exactly what I did. But as soon as I tuned in, and you were going to the hospital or whatever, and I knew how bad it was, I started like working astrally. I didn't see any clients that day while I was at Pat's Fair. I'm like, I can't work on anybody today. I'm working on Brian astrally, and I was even going through time and space. I was going back to like the cherry tree and where the things were being harvested, and like imagining all the plant and how it takes the chemicals out of the soil and goes to the cherries, and the ones that you were going to get to minimize how much it had, so it wouldn't be as bad of a dose. So like I was going through time and space to minimize the impact and doing all kinds of.
But
I was throwing the kitchen sink at it because for my initial thought was I might not see Brian again because this is bad, and so I'm going to do everything I can to work on it. And
every level of spirit, yeah.
A full 24 hours later, the blood test came back. I had above lethal levels of cyanide in my blood.
Oh my God.
A full
yeah, at that
24
point,
hours later.
they didn't even know how you had walked in at that point once
Yeah.
they realized how bad it was. Yeah.
They had no idea how I was still alive. They said I should be dead. Now, granted, they didn't let me have my phone with me because they were worried about it getting stolen. My friend, who is kind of acting as a translator, wasn't allowed to stay there with me. So I'm alone in a hospital it wasn't even Mexico. It was Mexico City. It was Coacalco, which is like the slum of Mexico City. So this was bad. Nobody spoke English there. I mean, it was, I was in such a foggy mindset that it was, I was struggling to speak Spanish, and they don't really teach Spanish for emergency situations. It's usually just kind of conversational. They don't teach you medical terms, and they were terrible. They were just bumbling buffoons, and I was like, okay, can just give me the supplies, let me do it. And they would not let me do that. And I'm half out of it. No,
You
just
sent me a picture of taking an IV out, and there was like a big like blood clot type thing on.
Oh,
the end.
yeah.
It's like, I just thinking
Yeah.
about that makes me queasy. I don't do well with blood stuff. But
So they didn't change my IV bag. I got one IV bag that lasted the whole time I was at the hospital. And in the morning, I'm like, the IV's dry. I could kind of tell it was clotting in there. So she pulls it out, and the blood clot just comes out, and she goes to slap a Band-Aid, and I'm like, hold on a second, let me try and pull that out, because if the cyanide didn't kill me, the blood clot might. So I'm just, and then the
Wow.
sepsis and other crazy stuff in that hospital without any sort of sanitary conditions. It was terrible. The guy tried to stick a thing down my nose for the activated charcoal, and that was just terrible. And it got bent over, so it wasn't going. So then when he tried to inject it, it just blasted this black water everywhere. And I'm like, just let me drink it. Just let me drink it. And he's like, no, we have to put it in. So they only used it like 2 times. I'm like, just let me drink it already. Why? It was ridiculous.
Drink what?
The activated charcoal. So
there's
Because it
there's
kills
one
the poison. Charcoal kills poison.
no, kind of one other story from when Brian was down there, and he can fill in the details. While he's in the hospital and is totally out of it, a couple days later, I forget the sacred site, but you end up going to a site, and some people stopped you saying, "You can't keep coming here. You've been here every day." And Brian hadn't been because he had been at the hospital, but he must have been like bilocating or astral projecting because they saw Brian, like, how many gringos bald with a goatee do you notice around pyramids, right? But he had apparently been there all these days that he was in the hospital, and they were giving him a hard time for always being around.
yeah, no, it was basically that. So after
Juicy.
I almost died, I'm like, you know what? I want to go do something fun. Had access to a motorcycle, threw the pack together. It was a really tiny motorcycle, and so my friend was on the back, Deanna, and then she had my giant pack on the back of her on this tiny motorcycle. So here we are cruising up the mountains, up into Hidalgo, the beautiful high mountains, desert. Oh, that was just picturesque. I would love to go into stories about that whole experience up there, but not to get distracted. So we went there within the first couple days we were up there. Then after that, we had gone to Las Cascadas waterfalls. That looked like a set of Indiana Jones. It was just
How
amazing.
did you feel? So how long did it take you to clear up?
Well, once they administered the antidote, I started feeling better. My blood was able to process the oxygen and get the oxygen everywhere.
What was the antidote?
Yeah, they injected it. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
I got a picture of Brian in the hospital recovering. Yeah, I found the picture. Too bad. This is like, I thought I had a picture of the blood clot too, but I guess not.
How'd you get this picture, your friend?
It's on the Facebook profile, and I think this is the pyramid where they were giving you a hard time. You had been there. No, that's not it.
That's Teotihuacan.
Okay. But here's this giant backpack that he's walking around with.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Wow, what a story.
So we go back a second time, and we're okay. So this is even interesting. So we go back a second time and see the shaman again, and he's just sitting there. So we're talking to him, and I need to look for this because I have the whole conversation recorded. Granted, it's in Spanish, but it's still pretty interesting. He's talking about the Toltec principles, how everyone's a mirror to see yourself through, whether it's a good trait or a bad trait, or something you want to be, something you don't want to be. So everybody's a mirror for that. And I've heard some of this before. And then all of a sudden he talks about fuego y luz, fire and light, y extraterrestriales, in others, and extraterrestrials. I'm like, oh, okay, now you have my. So the night before, I was standing up on the balcony. This is kind of way out in the country, so very dark skies. You could see the Milky Way, you could see all the stars, and here this streak across the sky. And I'm like, oh, I know what that was. That was a ship. So the next day, talking to the shaman, he actually got pulled up on that ship. And he's telling me that they're telepathically teaching him all these different things. And it was just amazing. So it started out pretty interesting. So then we go up and we're meditating on the temple. And come back, and he had already left by the time we got back. And but he had given us some instructions to go through, meditate, connect to the energy of the pyramid, and a few other things, almost do a yoga. And I can't remember exactly all the details of that. But then after that, there's this temple that was really unique. It was different than the rest of the temples, but you had to walk down through the Mexican underbrush. And that may have been the time I almost got bit by the rattlesnake. I can't remember.
There's always something trying to kill Brian. But here's the interesting thing, and going back to how you don't get caught up in the trauma and drama, like you just start choosing different. Most people, if somebody had tried to poison them with cherry pit seeds, probably would have been very angry and wanted to hurt the other person or whatnot. But if I remember correctly, after you got out of the hospital, you actually did a healing session for the gentleman.
Yeah, I did, and I tried to remove the demons on him. It was really bad. So
he
tried to help him. Yeah, I did a session for him, and he didn't know fully what I was doing, but I found out that he actively worshipped demons. He had an altar to demons. So he was not any good. So I was trying to help clear him. He could barely, he's just kind of, as he sat there, he looked like a corpse walking. He's just, his breathing was labored. It was a decent room temperature, and he's just sweating bullets, and he could barely hobble along as he's walking. So it was bad.
Maybe he ate some of those cherry seeds too.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, that was before we had the cherry pits.
But the thing is that the takeaway is that instead of getting angry, you went to a place of healing and were to be of service to even someone that you could have considered an enemy. And how magical and loving is that, where if you could just be present with a person that you don't get along with, or that you even have reason to, not like, and actually be in a space to be available and heal. That's really amazing.
That is.
What everybody acts from their level of awareness. And especially when you have nasty, dark things influencing people, they're not acting of their own accord. There's different levels of attachment and possession. You might have a backseat driver just kind of, telling you things, making suggestions, kind of influencing you invisibly sometimes. You might have a passenger, so they're actively talking to you. So paranoid schizophrenic people, the voices in my head, the voices. Well, yeah, no kidding. There's voices in their head. Someone yank off that demon and they won't have those voices.
There's a tool from the Oxford group where every action, every inspiration that you have, you test against what they call the four absolutes. Is it loving? Is it selfless? Is it honest? Is it pure? And if it tests against those four things, then chances are you're making a decision from source, from light. But if it doesn't, then that's kind of a way to safeguard where if you are having entity influences and dialogues, that you're not succumbing to the suggestions like that. You have to be aware to ask the question. That's where it all
Yeah,
starts.
that's a great tool.
Have the awareness and really start choosing different, because it all comes down to that choice out of awareness, and that's what starts the momentum for everything to change in your life. Yeah, and Tammy's just checking in, and I think that's a thank you little prayer thing. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to everybody for your comments and contributions. If you do have questions, please ask. And where to go from here? Because we kind of went.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're diverging in a couple of. Yeah. So, but back to the levels of possession, really quick, just to finish that up. So you could be in the passenger seat, and that thing could be driving. That's typically true of drug users or things like that. People that are on hardcore drugs or severe alcoholism, where that thing could be driving, but that you can reach over and grab the wheel. So it's kind of like you have control still, and you can take control back. But they're so kind of gone or weak-willed that they don't.
Well, a lot of time, most people are so feeling so separated from everything else that they've kind of given up. They say in Access that it's the original occupant kind of goes to sleep. And what is it going to take to wake them up to start driving again and get rid of medicating their ability to connect to the divine away and get rid of the passengers, as you call them, and to give a real easy technique for clearing out entities. It's from Access Consciousness, and you basically say, "Ye entities, or demons, whatever you might be working with, truth, who are you? Truth, who are you before that? Truth, who are you before that?" And you keep saying truth, who are you before that, till you feel a shift in the energy. And what you're really doing is you're bringing the entity to the awareness that it came from source. It came from the life force field. It came from the Kasepacha. It's part of this field of living energy where we're all one. And then truth, who will you be in the future? And making the entity recognize, oh, I'm going to be something different. And then you run you can use Brian's clearing, since it's not copywritten, absolute resolution from infinity to infinity and beyond. And basically giving the entity the energy of, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And I believe Brian takes this technique and combines it with like a column of light and sucks the entity up to the upper world or something like that, right?
Yeah, this is kind of a more advanced technique. I visualize opening a portal. So that's what, to work in the spiritual realms, a lot of it's just visualizing. So I open up a portal above them, kind of act almost like a vacuum cleaner, let's say. I call in my light team, I call them. But I mean, it's a series of angels, guardians, positive ETs, whoever positive that wants to help, I call them in. Ask them to be lovingly escorted to a place where they'll be healed back to source, so they can live at their highest and fullest potential. And then and I say, now go, I command them to go, and I use aho metakweasen, not just aho, aho metakweasen, because it's not just me, it's me and all them behind me. So
I believe that's a Lakota term, is it not? Or am I misremembering?
Yes.
Yeah, we use that term a lot in our family.
Yeah, I never get the pronunciation right. I think I always say mitaka, which is not quite right, but the energy, it's pointing to the right energy when I say it.
Wow.
But you'll find if you ever go to native ceremonies, if you're going into like a sweat lodge or similar ceremonies, you're saying that when you go in and out of the door for the lodge and other different scenarios, like a Sundance, you would have a similar thing where you would be saying that after you get smudged and all that. So, but very powerful term, because it's like, you're not messing with me, but you're messing with my whole spirit family and then some.
So I learned the term in the source First of all, we use that term a lot. Can you say it again?
Aho me takweasan.
So, but we say it so fast. Aome takfiasan. We say it really fast. But I like the way you're saying it. So we have a word that we say to cut the umbilical cord of the whatever energy, of course, negative energy. Um, and so, like, we use this letter called Ta, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. But you have to say it from your solar plexus. So you just go like Ta,
Oh,
goes like that. So you really say it from your solar plexus. And what happened, there's no way the vibration of it on once you on the measurement vibration numbers, it's so powerful that your whole body vibrates completely and it cuts off negative energy.
I could feel that. It was
yeah,
like a small nuke going off here.
yeah.
Boom.
If any of our viewers are sleeping, you just woke them up for sure.
So you know who uses this? The karate people use that. So when they do their karate against the two fighters, they use that. They use
And,
that.
and are you
The
saying that is that a K sound at the beginning? What's the sound
ah,
again?
T, Tom,
T.
T.
Okay.
It's the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Tav. But you
Okay.
have to say it with the full-on breath coming from the solar plexus. And that's what makes it very. You want to try it
Um,
out?
I don't know if I can try it out because I have kids sleeping upstairs.
Oh,
I'm gonna wake them up.
Don't. It will shake the whole house.
Maybe I'll do it on the day stream tomorrow during the healing session. We'll see.
Yeah, well, that's amazing stories. I know one thing I learned my father said that we, the being of light, we always attract the darkest people because we can practice who we are.
Right. Well, the greatest truths are paradoxes. And from a duality standpoint, the brighter your light, you'll attract the opposite, the dark, because contextually you get to experience the light by having the contrast of the dark. But then in the one-ality sense, like attracts like. So you also will attract other beings of light that you can congregate with, explore your gifts with, and socialize with. So both are true. You attract both from two different points of view, from one-ality and duality.
Absolutely. I want to share something with you that I experienced and I learned this week. It is a natural effect that when a being of light is in a situation, any kind of situation, trapped, there's always another being of light right there with it. In other words, being of light, they are never really sent alone. They are always sent with a companion.
Interesting.
And in astrology, it it blows my mind. And I see this over and over and over and over. Maybe it's me, okay? I can only speak for myself, of course, when it comes to this. Every time I do a chart, within an hour later, that same day, or no later than the day after, there's another person that's going to come, and that other person is either born the same year and but the same time, and they have the same name, or they have something very similar, or they're pretty much the same birthday, or their story, even though now they are born on a totally different year, they don't have the same year, but I keep seeing this. Why is it that I have a case and then very soon the next case is like that? And I've been seeing that over and over and over the last 3 months. I'm trying to understand that.
Yeah, I haven't had that particularly happen, but I have had two occasions now where I have clients who for lack of a better term, they have the same star of inspiration. In the Karo tradition, they have the belief that when the head crowns, that's when the soul enters the body, and you have your Wilka Nuna Cheska, your sacred soul star. So even if there's two identical twins with the exact same birthday, they have this energy from the star of inspiration that makes them unique, their own unique voice in this world. And I've had a couple people who I haven't looked at their birthdays or anything, but their energy is so similar because they have the same inspiration, and they're just like it's beyond family. When you meet people like this, it's like twin flame is something different. This is like it's your soul, your sacred soul companion in a way. Really interesting that I've started to run into that, and it's similar to what you've been experiencing, just from the shaman standpoint instead of astrology.
You have been experiencing that lately?
Yeah, well, it's never happened before, and I've had two couples in the last month or two that I have had that experience with, where it's like, wow, they're from the same star, and that's why they
Yeah.
have this amazing connection. And now these were people that had already found each other and realized that they had this connection, where it sounds like yours is kind of might be two strangers, but they have all these similarities in story.
Yeah, it's just been, I'm really wanting now to pay attention and what is the message. Uh,
Well,
we had Venus in Gemini, that she was retrograde. It's been like this for the last over 2 months, or going on 3 months, because she's still in Gemini, but direct. So I wonder if that has something to do with Venus in Gemini bringing this the twin energy very close to, to the stars, to the astrology. So I'm just really, it's been happening every time this week, last week, this whole month. So maybe I'll put it out on
or
the,
maybe it's someone having a parallel life experience where it's the same oversoul in two simultaneous incarnations.
yes.
It could be
Yeah,
something
there's
like that. Uh-oh, Frozen, come back.
no. I'd like to talk a little bit about astrology.
Of course.
Uh, okay. Well, just because this is such a beautiful and specific month for us people in the earth.
Well, and the other thing with astrology, since we did have it, is there any significance to a lunar eclipse? Like we just had one in our area anyway this last Friday. Is there any energies that you can work with during that particular lunar event?
Absolutely. That's what I'm going to be talking about. So, what the special thing about this energy that are happening is like we are in the realm of Cancer. So, Cancer is the crab. So, it wants, it's a water. It goes and does its business. You know, it doesn't attack anybody, but then it's very fearful. As soon as there is any type of danger, it runs inside its house. So, in other words, what is cancer then represent to we as human being? It represents how our home is very, very important to it. It's vital. It's vital for us to have a home, to have a protection set up. And when you think of what's been happening in the last 3 months and the need for protection since this eclipse has been radically strong. And how do we deal with this? How we deal with the fact that we want to be protected? We want to be comforted. Now, the moon rules memories of the past. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is
is that,
this is the current transits as of right now,
oh,
July 8th.
beautiful.
Yep, yep. So I figure that might be
Okay,
a good reference point for the conversation.
excellent. Oops. Yeah. And so then you have the moon, as I said, very gentle. The crab does not attack anybody. So the energy that come from the moon are usually nourishing. The moon is like the mother. She lights your way. She makes sure you don't get lost. She's gentle. She provides. So the qualities of the moon now, they are exactly at the opposite of the energies of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter in Capricorn. It doesn't get any harder for the moon. So Capricorn is exactly the opposite of nourishing, gentle, soft. Is the opposite, because Capricorn is like the boss, and it's coming with his pen and it's going to pay attention at every mistake that cannot be made, not allowed. You have to do everything just right. That's the energy of Capricorn. In other words, you're in the box, you're the government, you got to pay your taxes, you got to follow the rules. So how do you deal with such energy? And when you are in the month of Cancer, it's hard. It's really hard. So the eclipse was on top of it, was at 1 degree, very close to 1 degree of Cancer. And that made it even stronger. So how do we take that energy unconditional? Okay, it's how we look at it and say, wait, I am just going to be a bee, and I'm going to go from flower to flower, and I'm going to get the pollen, and that's my business. I'm not going to think about anything else. So I'm just going to stay at this focused light of God, just doing my soul work. Okay? And how do we do it? With the moon now, the moon is dealing with the oldest energies. Capricorn is the aged man, it's Chronos, the time master, it's the old, it's the tradition. So, how we going to deal between this, gentle, right here, be in my home, be protected, take care of my children, and yet this ancient, old antiquity feeling that Kronos and Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn represent, and Pluto in Capricorn with his pushiness to change completely the government, and Jupiter, Pluto's brother, is saying, okay, well, I guess I have to also add my, wait a minute, well, my $1 billion to help you.
Yeah, because this is three planets all
The
conjunct right
three
there.
planets, exactement. And they were exact. They were also so
Ooh,
exact.
and
Pluto,
it's opposition the sun too, so there's a lot of illumination or a lot of light on the workings of these three planets right now.
so the working now, even though the opposition is intense, but what it really is, it's a pull. It just pulls. So it's going to stretch you until you can go as far as your ancestry. So this is ancestry time. We have to think, how do they do it? What can I learn from them? How can I be in this world now of today and use the old simple ways, the old ways that nourished our souls? And so, how do we do that? So, what I found out through my other companions in astrology, which I really liked, is that we need to honor the ancestor within. So the moon is about now needs to honor that that government was created by some beautiful traditions. At that time they served, and now we're going to accept to help that those traditions by not fighting, but we all gonna embrace the best part of it to take the pollen. We're gonna take the pollen, and then we're gonna just let time take care of the traditions, because one thing is for sure, like they say in Hebrew, Gam ze yavor, these too shall pass.
Hmm.
This is only temporary, because the shift that is happening from these energies are cosmic shifts. But what is 6 months from we, Mother Earth, people? In 6 months from now, this whole energy is shifting completely. So we are learning, we as little crabbies,
Hmm.
patience. We're learning to grow up. We're learning to forgive the old, the traditions. We're learning to accept, to take the best part, work with them, but not fight. We are Cancer. We're the moonies. We need to change. The moon. I love this. I love the phases of the moon because she helped me change. And I love the rising of the sun. It I know that every time I fall, I will rise again. Okay? So this is what we're learning. If we can hold this particular eclipse, which is going to be affecting us for 18 months. This eclipse is lasting 18 months, but not with this kind of energy. You remember, eclipse also goes through phases. It's going to go through the phases of the
Speaking of
moon.
phases, here we go. Here's just a little graphic that we have in the background of showing what the eclipse look like, and also just the different moon phases, so you can kind of get a visual if you didn't get a chance to see the lunar eclipse on Friday. Cool.
So we need to learn to let go the old. So letting go the old, learning to from us to let go, learning that um, we grow up. We grow up from this amazing energy. Let's not forget the goal of I love that, love evolution. We're gonna evolve. We fight, we don't fight. It's time to evolve. We've been trapped in an old American dream, and it's time to wake up. Okay, do you need an alarm? Well, it's ringing right now. This is the alarm going on. Okay, but it will shut. The alarm will stop, and we will rise with the new sign and the new sun victorious. We will, because it's the will of God. We're going to the Aquarian age, the golden age. Well, how can we go to the golden age with our CHIT? Impossible. Okay? So we got to let go. Let go. Honor the past. Honor our fathers. Honor our mothers. Honor the old, the ancestors. But it's time to move on. And
Honor it, but don't live in it. Because if you're living in
voila,
it, then you're not in the moment and you're missing the party.
exactly.
That's a huge problem I have. I actually almost remote view or astral travel back to the event, and multiple people have seen me do this. I'll be telling a story and I just go back. I have this amazing memory. I can remember every little detail of things usually. But how I'm doing that, I'm actually kind of going back and viewing the events. I get sucked back in it.
Yeah, that's a problem for a lot of people, and just I think, and you can correct me with this. I took a Lomi Lomi class, and one of the things, if I recall, the instructor saying that was beautiful about the original Hawaiian language before it had the influence of English is that there was no past or future concept. Everything was just in the moment, so there wasn't past tense and future tense. It was just now, and it was a beautiful example of the language and the ability to stay in the now. Like you honor the past, but you're not imprisoned by it, and you're welcoming the future, but you're not fantasizing about it. You're just allowing it, and because either one can fragment you, and then you're missing out on the ever-present moment of now, the now that you're in right now. So to not be fragmented either direction and just be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Because being here is so grandiose. It's
It is.
everything, everything you can be, and you act from that space,
And
and you
look,
come
Earth
like
is a hot
a child.
spot. Earth is a hot spot for the universe, really, because where else can you go, forget who you are, reemerge, remembering what you truly be, and have this amazing experience of waking up and then choosing to be conscious and choosing like to be love and light, to know that experientially with your choice in this world. There's not many places that have
Oh,
that ability.
no,
Like highly evolved beings manifest into physicality and back out. They
yeah,
have full remembrance of who they are, but to be able to forget and then remember
no,
to reassemble God, ooh, it's
yeah.
we got
Earth is
something
the
good
most,
here.
yes, I love what you said. Earth is the most beautiful planet in the very, very next galaxies. And that's why actually we are getting a lot of alien help. Actually, we're getting a lot of alien help that want to protect the earth. And you know all the little stories that's going on, UFOs and channeling, and all these beautiful brothers and sisters that we hear that channels many of people from the Pleiades, from this one and that one, Lord Michael. So, what I would like to add is if there was something that was not balanced in our lives with our parents, this is a good time to amend it, to accept the responsibility that they did their best and let go. Do not go back and say, I am this way and I'm that way because of my parents. The opposite.
Mhm.
This is the best month to just be grateful that through them you're living in this time and age that is amazing age.
Yep.
This is 2020, an amazing year.
One of the things we do in the Hatan Karpai, the great initiation for the Kara tradition, is you take the students to a cave and you have them do this recapitulation exercise where they start with their most recent memory and they keep drilling back, and the things that are heavy, they just allow the heaviness to go to the cave. The things that are light, you savor it and you allow it to go to the cave, and you keep going back in memories till you get to your birth or pre-birth, and then you invite the energy of your parents in, and you're in the space of thank you so much, because for whatever you did, you got me here to this auspicious moment where I am allowing all this heaviness to flow, and you allow any heaviness from them bringing you up, the relationship with them, however it is, to effortlessly flow from them through you and into the cave, just like doing really an ancestral healing. And in this process you then also get your ancestral gifts, and when you emerge from the cave, they say that you graduate, that's not the right word, but you go from looking at your parents as your parents to looking at your pakarina and your ituapu, which is the masculine and feminine nature spirit of your birthplace, that is said to hold the blueprint for the perfect you, for you to reascend back up into the Hanak Pacha. Because you had to forget who you are to distill down into matter. And your blueprint is held outside of this reality by these nature spirits. And then you get that into you, and then you start to ascend back up. So just right on point with what you were saying. Would be honor your parents. They got you to where you're at. and they gave you all the tools and everything that you needed for you to wake up and be your divine self in this world, to be in the world but not of it.
Yeah. So the eclipse usually also bring us something, especially in here. What are we responsible for? Where didn't I take responsibility in my life? It would be good to look at.
Yeah.
This is a very good time while Mars is going direct and empowering us to go, okay, uh, I'm going to go and do something about it. It's easier to attack some old responsibilities that have not been done, not been taken care of. And the other thing that um, there was something, there's other things going on with it's not just the full moon. Mercury is going to be going direct.
Yay! I'm very excited
Yeah,
about that.
I think on the 12th. So that's going to help more remembering, more. It's going to go direct in Cancer. So dealing with our memories, remembering our memories, sharing our memories, cleaning our memories. And I have a beautiful line here. Remembering the shades and colors of your memories. Be gentle with yourself and wake up in the dream, inside of it, that dreamed you.
Hmm. Very nice. It's very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Anything? Yeah. It feels
we
like the energy is.
we started the bilocation. Should I finish that story?
I
Sure.
love
I know you sent me two pictures. Let me.
Yeah, so those are pictures. The one picture was just a better picture of my backpack at Teotihuacan, but two of them are the pyramid at Tula, and you can see these big statues called the Atlantes. So this is an Atlantean era temple. It was like a colony of
Wrong one. I had the
it
wrong
was a
picture.
colony of Atlantis. So they came and shared information at this place. That was the Toltec capital of Mexico.
There's the right one. Oh, that's a 3D picture or
Wow.
something. I
Oh
see it
yeah,
moving as I go. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. That's it.
Wow.
Kind of trippy.
I've seen this
Yeah, that is a very
as a
powerful place,
picture.
and it was so
Wow.
beautiful. It's one of the places in the world that I could just sit there all day long, not do
Wow.
anything, not have my mind racing. It's one of those places where I could just sit there and be. Definitely one of my favorite places to be.
All right, and then here is the. Oh, I gotta reshare it because it. Not sure why it's doing that to me, but we can reshare it here and bring up the right one. Last time you shared pictures like this, I was able to just hit the button and it would go right to the next one.
I
All right.
share it in a slightly different way.
Here's one. What is this? It looks
So,
like the pyramid.
yeah, that is on the other pyramid looking at it.
Wow.
I think that's supposed to be a 3D picture, but oh, that's cool. Look at that.
Wow. Are you
Yeah.
going to go again?
I may. That
Let
was
me know. I'd
so
like
beautiful.
to
This looks
go.
almost like fake, but I know it's real. Just like, oh, you behind a green screen here, but it's just the
Wow.
angle looks a little odd.
Yeah, that is actually on the pyramids.
Oh, that's
Wow.
a selfie stick. I see it now.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's so cool. So, what is the bilocation? I want to.
Okay, so uh, I went down through the Mexican underbrush and made it to this temple. Had some dinner, lunch, had some food, water, did some meditation, a ceremony, and came back up, but kind of got lost on which way to go. got back an hour after closing. We got encountered by the cops. The police came and snatched us up, and well, I mean, not literally, but they escorted us to the office, and they start grilling us. I played the gringo card so hard. I just said, "Estábamos perdidos. We're lost. No entiendo, no entiendo. I don't understand." But they were really kind of speaking so fast and frantically that I wasn't understanding a lot of what they're saying. And they're saying that they watched me every day. They saw me every day. And I'm like, well, of course, you're the security guard. That's your job, to watch the place every day. But then they started listing specific days. I'm like, okay, that's strange. Was it not? No, it was open today. I don't know what they're talking about. I just kind of, I'm just like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Then they finally let us leave after a long interrogation. It turns out they thought we were grave robbing or something because I had been there every day. So they were wondering why I was there every day and why I was so far off the beaten track and what was going on. And, so they wanted to, they had a lot of questions for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the shaman saw me every day and had conversations with me. The vendors all saw me every day and had conversations. Even the police, the actual federal police and site curators saw me and spoke to me every day, starting the day after I ate the cherry pits when I was in the hospital.
Yeah, you were astral projecting, probably.
And you were not there and they saw you.
Well, they said I was there.
His body wasn't there, but he was there.
No, they said I was physical.
I get it.
Yeah.
So that's what bilocation is when you have physical presences observable in multiple locations at once.
Yes.
Or two or more. Yeah.
It wasn't actually astral projecting. Or it could have been, and I was using my yetin, which is a Tibetan term. The Hawaiians also can do this, actually hardening your astral body into a physical body that can actually touch things, move things, be seen and look like a normal 3D character. So the Hawaiians definitely have that ability here. I've heard stories of, along with the Tibetans, and the Tibetans called a yetin. So they actually saw me at this site, and I was just like, wow.
That is a very cool story.
You got powers.
So you're talking about how the drama, when did I start to let go of the drama? And Australia was a great learning experience. I ended up on Walkabout, and towards the end of it, I'm back in the area the first time I was homeless. Beautiful area. It was up in Kaibong, outside of Gympie. It was so Australian. I was sleeping in a eucalypt tree next to a billabong, which is a river, usually seasonal, where it dries up, and it's kind of just like a pond then. The river doesn't go anywhere because the water has gotten so low that it just kind of dams off. So I'm sleeping in this eucalypt tree in my hammock, 20 feet up in the air. Absolutely wonderful. So then at the end of it, I was back in the same place. And I was kind of grumbling to myself. Well, I went to the restroom, and I went to go to the restroom, and I pulled my shorts back up, and all of a sudden, have you ever had a hair pinch as you're putting your clothes on or something? Pinch and like pull your hair, and you get this really sharp pain.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah. So I'm like, ow, whoa, what on earth? And it starts feeling like a burning hot poker sticking in my leg. And I start shaking my pants out like crazy. And then all of a sudden, this strange looking bug drops to the ground.
Is that a centipede?
No.
I had one in my pants, centipede.
I'm like, oh, what awesome new fresh offering of the Dangerous Creature of the Month Club is this in Australia? So I guess I killed it by shaking it in my pant or my shorts, and it fell to the ground. And I took it into the almost like deli counter they had in the servo or the gas station, And I say, can I ask you a question? Am I going to die? And they're like, what are you talking about? I put the bug down on the counter and everybody's looking at it like, huh. Oh, you know what I think that is? It's an assassin bug. I'm like, well, it doesn't sound great. So I looked it up, and it turns out that you usually don't die unless it's in Europe and they have Chaga disease. Then you can die, but not typically found in Australia. So I wasn't going to die, but it was horribly painful. It felt like my whole leg was on fire. My leg was swelling up. So here I am, laying in my hammock. And granted, at this point in time in Australia, it was the kind of beginning of summer again. But at night, it would get down almost to freezing. During the day, it would get up to 95. So here I am in my hammock. It was blazing hot, and I'm all bundled up. I have all this warm gear on, my hood up, and I'm sweating because if I didn't do that later in the night, I'd be getting close to hypothermia. So it was a really difficult so I'm just like there. I'm totally uncomfortable going, why is all this happening to me? Australia was terrible. Oh, it was just horrible. Then I got a message. I don't know whether it came from the eucalypt tree, ancestors, my higher self. I don't know where the message came from, but it said, be grateful. And I'm like, what? I had been taken in by so many people. I was homeless in a foreign country with very limited resources, and I was taken care of. I never slept on the street. Well, I was camping in a really nice camping area, but that's a little bit different than sleeping on the street. I had my camping gear with me. I had gotten to go on so many adventures. I traveled with the paranormal and cryptid research team. I had gotten to work with Aboriginals. I did spiritual work there. I did vision quests on mountains. I went to so many sacred sites. I went to so many beautiful places. And here I am. The whole time I'm in victim mode. I'm like, poor Brian, pity me, pity me, pity me. All this terrible stuff happening in my life. But I had so many wonderful friends and great people take me in and provide for me.
Thank you, God.
My friends Joe and Shane let me borrow their car. They had an extra car that they weren't using. They let me borrow the car. They gave me a laptop to borrow. They gave me a room to stay in for a while. I had other people let me stay with them along the way. I was taken in by so many friends. Yeah.
So the assassin bug assassinated your victim mode.
Sure, we can go with that. Or it was like the yeah, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just, grumbling, and I'm like, screw this. I want to go home. This is terrible. I don't want to be on this planet. I'm just really, throwing this pity party for myself. And then that message of be grateful. And even, same can be said about Mexico, although the whole Mexico adventure, I considered an adventure.
Yeah, let's do one whole episode on Mexico. We could retell.
Oh yeah,
there, because that could take 2 hours by itself, I think.
Write it. I'm writing all my stories. My stories are amazing.
Well, that's the goal. I want to write a book on all my adventures and write down everything, every little incriminating, not so legal, allegedly not so legal things I've done, and then redact it. So if I'm in an area where I wasn't supposed to be doing something, I'll redact it. So when I was in redacted, I did this with redacted, if I'm trying to protect their names. And so I can give my full story. And it's going to read like a military top secret document, which is going to make it even more mystique and awesome. So I need to sit down and do that.
I belong to a writing group, and my teacher has been teaching here at the university for the last 4 or 5 years. And actually, I just started yesterday, was back. We were taking off for a couple months, and we're back. And that's all we do. We meet 3 hours, and you just write a story, between 1,500 words each time. And then you have five people critique your story and help you. So every time you can bring a story. If you're interested, we have one room left.
Oh,
And it's on Zoom. So even if you
It's
go
a
to Maui, you can do it. I'm doing it. Um, yeah, I'm almost ready to do my book.
oh, I think Brian's turning on a light. We'll see. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, there we go. Now you can see.
I
Woo!
can
Will
see clearly now the
like
light.
beans.
Okay. Um, so when I was in Australia, and part of leading up to that, you had already talked to me. Well, maybe I'm a little bit unclear on the timeline of this, but you had told me to remain in the state of allowance, and don't you don't have to. And it was really about not aligning and agreeing,
Or
or
resisting reacting too.
resisting and reacting. So this whole time I was either, you know, at the time, it was difficult, and sometimes I'd be told bad things, and I'd just start. It would get repeated so often, it would get in my head, and I'd start agreeing and aligning. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not doing that right, or I'd get down on myself, or I'd be like, no, and I'd be just hard headed and hitting up against it and arguing, and but
And
then
just
I started to really tap into that and go, no, I'm just going to remain neutral, have an interesting point of viewpoint.
and just for people watching, the whole idea with that is if you align and agree with or resist or react to anything around you, you're locking into the duality and you're in relationship with things instead of creationship with things. So if everything that happens to you, whether you just stubbed your toe, won the lottery, got into a car accident, or just had the birth of your child, you look at everything as, wow, this is so interesting, instead of saying this is the best day of my life or this is the worst day of my life. Either one of those is a judgment that locks you into duality, and instead to be able to step outside of that, be the observer, relish the moment in allowance and not in judgment, either good or bad. Good
I like,
judgments stick you worse than bad judgments because they're light and fluffy, right?
yeah,
But they can lock you into polarity more easily because you're not actively trying to change the good judgments because you've judged them as good.
yeah, because like with me, I get excited a lot because, oh, this is so great. And then as soon as I finish saying that, I move a little too fast and I break something. So, I like that you said if it is pretty positive and happy and joyful, and if it is negative and, you know, very dark, just look at it. Look at it and watch your step both ways. You know, the same amount of darkness equals the amount of light. That's the how to overcome duality. Just to know that and not move too much to the left, not too much to the right.
No, there is a credo. I think I might have given this on the last call. Uh-oh, Brian's spinning. Hopefully I'm still here, but we'll see. Let me know if you can still hear me. Who's frozen? Comment who's frozen if you're watching. But assuming that I'm still live, the credo that I love from Rishi's Metaphysical Institute, and when I'm done with it, if they haven't come back, we'll just wrap. But it is my desire to sit calmly upon the throne in the temple of our own body, between the two great pillars of positive and negative vibrations, balancing to the point where you can radiate through your temple of light to all whom we contact the wonderful peace, poise, power, wisdom, love, and harmony of God. And with that, since they're gone, I'm going to just say thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next Tuesday for Midnight Meanderings. And tomorrow, if you are around at 11 o'clock, Casey and I are doing a group virtual healing session. And so if you want to participate in that, you can go to stircrazyshamans.com. You can just tune in live, but if you register on the site, we will include you by name in the opening ceremony, whether you're actually watching live or not. And it's free. You just sign up, give us the name, and then during the opening ceremony, we'll just call you by name, and you can have the little bit more energetic potency with it. So, with that, thank you so much for joining us, and I will catch you next time.